Hi, and welcome to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm Dupe Witherick, alcohol free wellbeing and transformational coach, and the best selling author of A Cocktail of Clarity, How to Ditch Drinking, Embody a Joyful New Identity, and Thrive Alcohol Free. This podcast will show you that being alcohol-free is not what the traditional narrative says. And even though alcohol is so ingrained in our society that it is okay to give yourself permission to stop drinking if you want to. And you do not have to wait until you hit rock bottom. It is certainly not boring, and I believe ditching drinking is just the start to living an extraordinary life. By getting rid of this one thing, it allows the doors to open to endless possibilities and opportunities. Each week, we will have guests on who are at various stages of the alcohol-free journey, from those who are curious to those who have been alcohol-free for years. We will also have experts on talking about different topics relating to alcohol and beyond. Through these conversations, you will discover what it means to thrive alcohol-free. Enjoy. Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm so pleased that you are here, and I hope you've had the best week. What have you been up to this week? It's felt like the weather here in the UK is just a bit miserable at the moment. I don't know about you. It's not great, and I think it does affect your mood. So if you are suffering with that, I find things like meditation, yoga, and EFT tapping helps get you out of that funk. So if they're things that you are interested in exploring, then I would go ahead and do that and see if that helps with your mood and your emotions and managing those. But I've definitely found it feels like it's getting darker, and obviously the clocks are going to go back in a couple of weeks, which is unbelievable. I don't know where this year's gone. But if you are struggling at the moment with that, then I'd look to see what can you do? How can you get that daily sunlight in? How can you get that vitamin D into your system just to keep you from getting that, getting sad, as it were, seasonal affective disorder. Anyway, on to cheerier things. I was thinking about the benefits of ditching drinking, and I was wondering whether or not you're listening at the moment and thinking, well, I'm not that bad. I might feel a bit foggy-headed every now and again. I might struggle a little bit when it comes to drinking, but it's not that bad. I haven't got an issue. I haven't got a problem. I can't take it or leave it, but I don't drink every day. I drink on weekends, probably a bit too much on the weekend. I stay within the limit. Well, I don't really, but I'll convince myself I do. And you might be thinking, actually, it is time for me to take a break. And if that's you, I wanted to go through some of the benefits of ditching drinking. So I did an Instagram post about a week ago, and it was all about the 12 benefits of ditching drinking. There are so many more, but these 12 are less anxiety. For me, one of the revelations was alcohol doesn't actually reduce my stress. It doesn't reduce anxiety. It doesn't reduce depression. It doesn't make me feel better. It actually exacerbates stress, anxiety, and depression. And this week was World Mental Health Day, and I posted about this as well. It really does impact us, and it impacts anxiety, depression, and stress, plus it impacts our sleep. And so one of the benefits is less anxiety. And I always say I didn't feel like I was an anxious person prior to stopping drinking. But actually, in hindsight, I probably was anxious. And I remember having that sort of fear or that anxiety in lots of situations. So less anxiety is definitely one benefit. Mornings are so much better. You wake up and you feel good, you feel clear-headed, you feel like you can jump out of bed. And then that leads to the next one. You have more time and energy. And when you stop drinking, you really see that actually you've been wasting a lot of time, and a lot of mental capacity has been taking up a lot of your time and a lot of your energy, even if you don't drink that much. thinking about drinking takes up time, takes up energy. And actually you feel like you can conquer the world, you can do anything. And that's great. And then that also then leads to more excitement about life. So this is the fourth benefit. You're excited about what could potentially happen, what could potentially be. You're excited about trying new things, about doing something different, about challenging yourself. And then number five is you feel calm. You have this sense of peace, this sense of calm, this sense of actually, whatever comes my way, I can handle it. And that is an amazing feeling. Another benefit is you discover new hobbies, which again, we don't really have many hobbies when we're drinking. That is our hobby. Our hobby is to go somewhere with friends, but it then generally revolves around having a drink wherever we go. And so discovering completely new things, remembering the things that you used to love when you were younger and actually doing those and trying new hobbies is incredible. Then benefit number seven is greater clarity. And of course, I've got my book, A Cocktail of Clarity, and I completely believe that this is the start of everything. And so just being more aware, more focused, being clearer in where you're going, what you're doing, and what you want to achieve. That clarity that comes is amazing. And then that also helps you be more present, which is benefit number seven. So being more present, it's all about really taking things in, really noticing things around you, listening to conversations and listening to what people aren't telling you, watching a body language and just being in the room. We can get so distracted when we're drinking, and actually, I don't know about you, but I remember conversations at networking events and things where I would be talking, but then thinking, okay, well, when's the next drink coming? When can I get another drink? Because that was my crutch, I suppose. And then feeling healthier. Obviously, by stopping drinking, you're going to be healthier. And alcohol is potentially linked to 200 different illnesses, 7 types of cancer. But fundamentally, your body is not processing a toxin every day. And so it can focus on other things that your body needs. Your liver does repair itself as well. And you generally find that you're exercising or you're doing things, you're walking in nature, and you want to eat healthy things. When you realize that you've been putting ethanol into your body, which is what we clean our homes with and fill our cars up with, you then suddenly think, well, what else is it that I'm putting into my body that isn't very good? And how can I be healthier? How can I live a healthier lifestyle? And so you certainly feel healthier. Then the 10th benefit, which I think is really important, is connection. Meeting like-minded people going through the same journey with you and connecting with them. That is just a key part to all of this. And actually finding people who are on your wavelength and having deeper conversations and just enjoying those new connections and the company that you're in is incredible, and not having those shallow, indifferent conversations. Then, of course, benefit number 11, one of my favorites, are the fact that you can drink delicious alcohol-free drinks. So you get to drink amazing alcohol-free drinks. And I posted on Instagram this week about Cosmopolitan and me drinking and the fact I get to drink Cosmopolitan. And so if you want that recipe, head over to my Instagram at Thrive Alcohol Free to get it. But the Cosmopolitan is a fab mocktail. And then there are so many alcohol-free drinks now available as well. So you have the choice. And actually, that's lots of fun, experimenting and exploring all these different options so that you don't feel like you're missing out at all. And finally, the 12th benefit that I had on the list was confident, being more confident. You have this quiet confidence about you when you're not drinking because you are at peace with yourself. You are calm. You have that clarity. You have the energy. You have more time. You're more present. You're healthier. All of those good things all lead to you feeling more confident. And on top of that, you're actually doing what you said you were going to do. There's no more feeling like crap because you haven't kept that promise to yourself when it comes to moderation, for example, and you've said, I'm not going to drink on these certain days, then you end up drinking and you end up berating yourself, and that ends up hitting your self-esteem. So more confidence is just the pinnacle of all of it. So you can walk into any room feeling powerful, feeling confident, and owning it and owning who you are in your authentic self because you've decided to ditch the drink. So if any of this is resonating and you would like to take a break, you'd like to maybe look at not drinking for a while, then there are a couple of options. You could either do some coaching, and I would love to coach you. We can do a 3-month program where you have someone who's holding you accountable. We can work through a number of the things that are keeping you stuck, that are actually causing you to drink, and the limiting beliefs, and your values, and where you want to be. Or you can head over and get a Cocktail of Clarity online course. This is a self-paced online course, which you can do in the comfort of your own home at your own time. And it's a really amazing course. I'm really proud of this course because it does help you break that habit and also discover the tools that you need to succeed. It's 3 modules, but within those 3 modules, that's 12 lessons. In module 1, which has 6 lessons, it's going through all the insights about alcohol and its impact on our lives. So you can reflect on your own relationship with alcohol and consider if life would be better without it. We also then go into what does an alcohol-free toolkit look like and how do you really get started. Then module 2, firsts, which are all about how do you get through those initial alcohol-free firsts and navigate various situations without alcohol. And then what can you do instead? And then finally, module 3, which has 4 lessons, gives practical tips and exercises to help you establish your new alcohol-free identity. And so it's the 12 video modules of learning. There is a workbook with questions and actions that you can use throughout. There are a number of bonuses, including healthy snack recipes, quick reading recommendations, breathing exercises, value exercise. There are various things for you to do. And as I said, you can really use this as a kickstart to get you on the journey. So if you are ready to fundamentally change your life and you want a step-by-step system to making alcohol insignificant and live a life of abundance, if you'd like a superpower that can help you do anything you put your mind to, if you want to start to better understand and love yourself again, if you're looking to discover your true purpose in life, if you'd like to think about what those new passions and hobbies and build consistent healthy habits, and if you're ready to set new goals and visualize the future you've always desired, then go and get this course. There is a lot in there, and for the value that you're getting, it is an incredible course, and it will fundamentally get you kick-started on this alcohol-free journey. And the great thing is you can do it and then you can decide, do I then want to continue for X amount of months? I always suggest go for 100 days, 90 to 100 days is the sweet spot, but see how you feel. What I'm really excited about is that this course, a Cocktail of Clarity self-paced online course, is currently at a really special price. So it's a one-time investment and it's only £97. And that's it. And for me, one of the things that really helped me at the beginning was I did a course and it changed the way I thought about alcohol. It made me really journal and think about where I was going and what I was doing and the reasoning behind drinking. And so this course for me, I've created it obviously based on my experience and on the experience of people I've coached. And I wanted it to be accessible to everyone. So if that's something you're interested in, you can go and get that course, £97 today. All right. Well, I hope that's really helpful for you. And why wait? Take a break today. So today's guest, I'm really excited for today's guest. I was on her podcast. It came out last week, Empowered, the podcast with Linda Brand, and we had such a fab conversation. We also went live on Instagram last Friday, and so if you want to catch that, you can. But she's a wonderful person, and it was amazing to have her on the podcast, on my podcast, and to be on hers. So Linda Brand is a transformational teacher and dream builder coach. She's certified through the Life Mastery Institute, and Linda can help you create a life you love living. Linda specializes in helping women entrepreneurs and business owners build their dreams, accelerate their results, and create richer, more fulfilling lives. And for over 30 years, Linda has studied and implemented transformational success principles as an entrepreneur. Today, Linda is a sought-after speaker, podcaster, and coach. Linda's workshops, retreats, and coaching programs help people break through limitations and achieve greater results than they ever have known before. And so it's a real pleasure to have Linda on and to reciprocate. And we have a really good conversation. So without further ado, here is the conversation with Linda. So welcome, Linda. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. How are you?
I'm well, thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm so glad we were able to make it happen.
Yay, it's so wonderful you're here. And I know we tried a few times, so I'm grateful that you've taken the time and you're here to do this episode. So for people that might not know you, why don't you maybe give a brief introduction as to who you are and how you've ended up being on the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast?
Absolutely. So, a little background is I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, Detroit, and then some other suburbs of Detroit. And I had love and I had, shelter and things, but I didn't have the most ideal upbringing. And I got in a lot of trouble because, like, from age 12 up, we had moved and I wanted to fit in and I got out and, because we all want to belong, right? Got in with the wrong crowd, got in trouble with the law. Nothing's what it looks like. And anyway, I served my time. I was told I was going to have probation for 10 months. I was told that while I was in school and doing all these good things with my life. And then I showed up to the court and they basically told me I had to turn myself in and go to jail. And I was 18 years old and I was a suburbanite girl. And it was just the judge that I was given. And I guess that I never agreed to anything. So when he handed me sentence, it was very strange. Like, wait a minute, like, don't you kind of have a negotiation? So it was very bad. Anyway, a lot happened in my life. And then in my early 20s, I got into the real estate business, but that scarred me and followed me my whole life. And I carried shame to very recent when I started on this the podcast and all that, because I started anyway going back into my life. And so I had a lot of low self-worth, low self-esteem, very poor parenting from my teenage years up, lack of supervision. And I fell into real estate, which is a challenging career, period. And so I worked on my mindset for many, many years, listening to Brian Tracy, Tony Robbins. And then in 2017, I hired my first coach and I started investing in myself that way. But I did raise a son with, we didn't get married, but we have a son together. So God blessed me with a beautiful boy back in the 90s. And that's a whole story in itself. And then in 11 and 12, I had a debilitating illness. I was misdiagnosed doctor. So I had a lot of things in my background. And then, like I said, I started hiring coaches. And then in 2021, I was at a Gina DeVee event. I don't know if you know who Gina DeVee is. She wrote a book, Ready to Be Queen. Do you know her?
I've heard of her. One of my friends has coached with her and loves her.
Yeah. So anyway, I met her. I went to 2 events with her. I was in Miami. I got a divine message. I belonged in Florida. I was washing my hands in this Italian restaurant. I got a divine message. I changed my whole life, relocated in 2022 across the country. My son was graduating college. He was relocating. So it all fell in place. The universe and God supported me. And I'm now relocated and I'm here in Florida. I started the coaching business, the podcast, and I've been healing, growing and healing. I've been on the journey for so long, but what happens is it's just like in layers, it just keeps going. You think you've grown and healed, and then it's like more and more and more. And so that's what really Florida life here has been for me. And then doing this work with the podcast. And I realized that my life got better when I met my son's father, even though we weren't a match, or I didn't think we were a match. And we raised him, and it wasn't like ideal co-parenting, but the men that were before him were horrible. He was better than everybody else. So yeah, I'm a different person. I've evolved so much, and I'm evolving to this, I'm not the same person I was 2 weeks ago. So I love the self-development. I fell in love with it, and spiritual and health and wellness because of my situation where I did quit drinking for 2.5 years. Plus I lit my Shabbat candles every Friday night. I grew up with no religion. And basically it's a story. And then we always had a Christmas tree. My mother's side was from Russia. I don't think they understood the Jewish holidays. My dad chose to be an atheist because of the Jews that were murdered. And so I grew up with little parenting, basically no religion, everything stacked against me ultimately. And I was just in the library this morning. I rode my bike and I'm reading in this book, and I took a picture and I literally posted it on social and circled it because it said, if you don't have this, this, and this, you're literally set up to fail.
Yeah. It is amazing, isn't it? There is a questionnaire you can do, and actually, if you there are 10 questions or something, and if you tick 4 of those, then you're more likely to also have issues with addiction or with alcohol or with other things, which is interesting. So I get absolutely everything you said, and thank you for sharing so nicely in terms of everything
Of
you've been
course.
through. And life is amazing, isn't it? Because I didn't know anything about any of that, and it's
Oh,
just
yeah. Well, yeah,
wonderful
I
to
don't always
share.
talk about the,
Mm.
thank you, the criminal stuff. Like I usually don't, like I said, I carried shame forever. But let me just read this. I just pulled it up real quick. It says children who grow up without strong and nurturing relationships with their parents have trouble forming friendships and romantic relationships, and they're more susceptible to depression, anxiety, and related illness later in life. Put simply, not receiving consistent parental care and warmth sets a child up for failure. And then it goes on anyway. But yeah, I mean, I've had trauma and I'm healing and I'm serving others with the podcast because the podcast is called Empowered, and it's all around. I bring a lot of authors, coaches, healers, energy healers, transformational stories, and inspirational, motivational stories, and some solo episodes too. Just sharing, if you know. And I love what you're doing with the thriving and alcohol free, because I don't personally drink alcohol because I just, even my son, he's 26 and he's never been drunk in his life. He doesn't drink. He had maybe this much when a girl he's dating would, he'll taste it or something, but he's against it. And with my debilitating illness and misdiagnosis, I cut alcohol for 2.5 years, which with society, and it's a challenge. Even today, like I was telling you earlier about this guy on a dating app, where how did you spend your weekend? And he was in a bar listing, he was a bar, and I'm like, oh, I was at the dog park. I, went to the gym. And he's like, I said, I don't go to bars. And he's like, oh. And I said, I don't drink. And next thing you know, he unmatched.
Yeah, and I just can't believe that. I think but then also, I suppose the question is, would you have wanted to be around someone like that as well? Because I imagine
No.
yeah.
Yeah, rejection's protection, 100%. Rejection's
Mm,
redirection, protection. I think I
mm,
didn't put no to alcohol, but what I find is the men that say no are generally recovering alcoholics, which is fine. I mean, there's no
mm,
disrespect. It's interesting because when I last time stopped drinking in July of 21, I believe, that time I was in a work thing and I had just had 2 drinks the night before, and I had this emotional, it's just coming back to me now, where I was like crying and I'm like, what is this? And then I'm like, you know what? This does not serve me. It's like a short time you feel good, and then after you have this situation. So I just stopped, and the friends that stopped contacting me, the happy hour ladies, It's like,
Mm.
what? I can't sit there and have soda water? It's like interesting.
I was just going to say, how did you cope with that? Because that's really harsh. Was it literally you were cut off as soon as you said you weren't drinking, or what
Well,
happened?
the reality, what I noticed, Dupe, is everything's a gift and it's for you. And I also believe, no disrespect for drinking people, but I feel like toxic behaviors, it's really not an energy I want to be around. I even go to a bar restaurant to have dinner with a friend, and the next day, because I'm an empath, I'll feel things. And I'm like, why am I feeling this way? And I think it's because I was in that atmosphere. So I
Mm.
just don't really like the atmosphere altogether, but I'm working on my belief system and my energy because I've always done the energy protection. But yes, it can be hard, but I've also learned to love my own company.
Mm.
I have my companion dog, and he's my best friend, and I rescued him, but it's one of those who rescued who, but we really rescued each other
Mm.
because I was done having dogs for a while when my last one died, and then I'm like missing a dog, so I thought I'd foster, and I ended up adopting him. But yeah, I love my own company, and that's what I teach my clients and students is learn to love yourself and learn to love your own company. But yeah, you're right. It is hard, and you just get used to it. You'll find your people. Your people will find you. Less is
Mm.
more anyway,
Mm.
my opinion.
Yeah.
Everything.
Yeah, that's powerful. Less is more anyway. Yeah, I like that. So maybe let's talk a little bit. You touched on self-love and really loving yourself and effectively not really worrying about the other people that let go and see you as different now, maybe, or whatever it is that the reason that they, because you don't drink. It's bizarre, isn't it? It's amazing what an impact it makes by not drinking
Hmm.
in people, but it tends to hold up a mirror to people that are still drinking who maybe don't want to have someone shine that light.
Very good point.
Yeah.
Like if they
So
hang out with you, that you are who you associate with, right? You end up becoming like
exactly.
the people you associate with, and they
Mm.
just are in love with their lifestyle and their drinking, and everybody has their thing. I do enjoy food, you know. I find myself that's when food's a drug too, and so it's it's just balance and living a healthy lifestyle. I'm just very much I do prioritize my health. People will be like, "How come you're always in the gym or you try?" It's like because it's part of just wanting to stay healthy. It's
Mm.
really not even much about how I look as much as
Mm.
my immune system wanting to stay well, and it feel
Mm.
right. You feel good mentally too,
Mhm. Mhm.
and most
I absolutely agree because lots of people think it's a physical thing, isn't it? They think that the reason most people go to the gym or do exercise or run or whatever it is to look good. And actually, it isn't. The people that do it regularly, it's all about the mental well-being. It's all about the just feeling like your body is a temple, isn't it? And you are protecting the one body that you have in your life. And I wonder, question for you, has it all changed since you had that illness in 2011, 12, or have you always been like that? Because you said you stopped
well,
drinking then as well.
yeah. I was never a big drinker, but that's a great question to pay because I actually was a cigarette smoker until I was pregnant with my son, and now I despise cigarettes and I try
Mm.
not to judge others, but whenever I walk the dog and I walk past, I just can't even tolerate it. So I was not always a super healthy being until I went through that. But what the blessing in disguise, the underlying blessing, which I believe to be true for every perceived to be negative thing in your life, is I learned how to take care of myself. And so I was forced to take care of myself. I was never a big drinker, but I did indulge, like I said, and smoked before I was pregnant, and he was born in 98. So it's been a long, long time, but I did not take as good of care of myself, no, until
Mm.
that happened. But I mean, that was devastating because when I finally found out my diagnoses, right after being misdiagnosed and knowing, inner knowing that they all said fibromyalgia. I knew they didn't know,
Mm.
right? Anyway, I took
Mm.
myself to a rheumatologist, this whole story. And the point is that once I found out what it was, I thought I had half the battle, right? You got the answers. But then I called the first doctor and I couldn't get until April and it was November. And the
Mm,
next one wanted $1,000 for the first visit and didn't take
mm,
insurance. So it
mm,
was horrible what happened to me,
mm,
besides physical. And then after 4 years of getting better, 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 but still believing I'm a sick person and that I'm not going to live a normal life, I was in a self-development workshop and the guy, I started crying in like the first hour or whatever. And he's like, "Oh, you identify yourself with Lyme disease?" Because it was Lyme disease.
mm,
And I was like, the light bulb moment, he said, "Do you identify yourself?" So I went back to my
mm,
the alternative doctor and I said, "Can you run blood?" And there was only one marker that showed like inflammation, and she didn't know if it was like yeast or what it was. So I was like,
mm,
"Okay, I'm done. I'm done."
mm,
That was 2016.
mm,
So 4 years of that. And then I met someone in 2017, but he wasn't, you know, I wasn't who I am. We attract who we are. My belief is we attract who we are. And who I was still insecure, just different. I was better than I was in the past, but I wasn't who
mm,
I never would have engaged with this type of person. And we were together for 2 years total until April of 2019. And that's a whole story. And then, yeah, everything happens for us. That's my belief,
mm,
even if it
mm.
seems negative. And we're always being tested too by the universe, I think. The
Yeah.
universe wants to give us everything we want. It's just we get in our own way.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah. And so let's go back to 3 years ago. You obviously said that was it. I'm not drinking anymore because of the experience you had, and you realized it wasn't serving you. What happened next? Is that when you started sort of discovering all the self-love, because you say you're different to the way you were in
Mhm.
2019. What's changed
Well,
since
the,
then?
yeah, the self-love journey has been an ongoing process. It's finally getting to really, really. I started doing EFT tapping, emotional freedom technique.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
amazing. That's what I do as well.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, and I
Mm,
love it. It helps me a lot because of the trauma in the body. The body keeps the score, and that's perhaps why maybe I had dental work. That's what, maybe I had the illness in the body and then something woke it up. I don't know, the dental work. But anyway, you asked after that incident at the real estate thing where I was crying and I
mm,
just said, anymore, what happened from there? Not too much. Just like I said, the happy hour ladies disappeared, which good riddance. I mean, to be honest, it's toxic and it's negative. I just started on another journey of well-being. To me, it's a holistic life where we have to take care of ourselves in every way. We are intuitive beings. We have an inner knowing. We know what's serving us and what isn't. And
mm,
I knew that was drinking. And I don't need to, but that's so society is so it's all about it. Like I met this girl, a newer friend here in Florida, and she's a vegan and she's pushing it on me, which I was vegetarian and dairy free for 3 years and all that. And I'm back today, like currently at the moment, I haven't had any animals and I feel amazing energetically. But the point is, she does drink wine once in a while, and I don't. And so it's just interesting how people are. But I, I just like doing my life. Here's something that just comes to me. This one guy I met down here at a dog park, he was on the phone. "Oh, you got to come out to the bar, come out," telling me what I need to do to have fun. We all have different fun. My fun could be sitting on the couch with the dog reading a book on Saturday night. That could be
mm,
joy to me, taking my
mm,
bath. And it is actually my joy. But someone else has to be out somewhere.
mm,
And before I had the sickness, and when I didn't love my own company, I would have to be doing something. When
mm,
my son would go with his dad, I was always planning. I couldn't be doing nothing. And now I like my own company. So, and I think when we become where we learn to love ourselves, fall in love with ourselves, we are more attractive to others.
mm.
Our energy is magnetic.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for the person listening, what would your maybe 3 tips be when it comes to
Oh, boy.
discovering self-love?
Awareness is always number one. Okay. So the ways to know is like the people pleasing and just not prioritizing your own needs, allowing other people to dictate how you feel. Only you dictate how you feel. So the advice would be learning to say no and treating yourself well. And when you want to be hard on yourselves, because we all have an inner critic and we all are hard on ourselves, it's a program we have, is when you need to be most compassionate with yourself. So that means, say you overate and you want to shame yourself or like beat yourself up, that's when you need to be most compassionate and loving.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
learning to say no is gigantic piece because so many of us are afraid to say no.
Yeah.
And just, yeah, prioritizing yourself, go and get some books on it. There's so many books, self-development books. It's really the core to happiness, in my belief. True happiness is loving yourself fully, is the basis. Not drinking alcohol is an act of self-love, in my opinion, because I don't have to put toxins in my body to be liked by other people. I can choose to have a sparkling water, you know.
Mm. It's interesting because it's a question that I ask my clients as well, especially once they've stopped drinking. You sort of start delving into emotions and everything else. And one of the questions I ask them is, do you love yourself? And what do you want? And those 2 questions are people find really challenging to answer. And a lot of people realize that they don't love themselves and they can't say that. And you talked about the inner critic, and I just think it's so important, isn't it, to start building a way of developing your self-care, self-love to then enhance everything else in your life. But even taking that first step of acknowledging, and you touched on awareness, and it's quite sad, isn't it, that so many women especially just seem to be missing that.
Yeah, if you didn't see a role model, if your mother did not show you how to love yourself, you are going to have a hard time. And you watched her not take care of herself and do all of these things like being a martyr and helping and doing for everybody. And that's a program. And women, especially like you say, they have a servant mentality. It's all about everybody else eats first, everybody else gets taken care of. We're the last ones. And even religious wise, people have programs. So it's really about unlearning and realizing that when your cup is overflowing, that's when you give. When your
Mm,
cup is overflowing. Because if mom is not happy and taken care of, then she's not going to be the best mom or the best husband or wife, or she's not going to be the best employee or employer until your needs are prioritized and taken care of, where you feel rested and feel good. And honestly, I hated myself for a long time. I didn't realize it, but
mm,
I figured it out and it's awful. Another thing
mm.
that people can start looking into, and do you know who Gabby Bernstein is?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So she's one of my favorite mentors, and I
Mm,
have all her books and cards. And anyway, her newest book that's coming out, Self Help, is all on internal family systems, which is the IFS, which is the parts. So it's really like your inner
mm,
child that's acting out when you get that
mm.
mean critic, you
Yeah,
know? It's reparenting yourself, really.
yeah,
When you want to be
absolutely.
hard on, yeah, just look at it like it's a 5-year-old. Like if your 5-year-old, you know, if your child was acting jealous or angry, are they still lovable? Right.
Yeah, so true. Yeah, I always talk about, because obviously I work a lot in the alcohol-free space, but people think that the coaching that I do is just helping people stop drinking, but it isn't because there's so much more. Because for me, being alcohol-free is just the start. It's really the personal growth, transformational journey that you're talking about, which is what helps people to sustain that alcohol-free living without feeling deprived, without feeling like they're missing out, and actually realizing that they're becoming a better person now that they've taken alcohol out of their life. And so a lot of things you're talking about are things that we work on through the transformational coaching that I do. But I'd love to hear a bit about your podcast. You touched on Empowered and what you do, but then also the coaching that you do as well through Linda Brand Coaching.
Sure. I want to ask you though, there's two things I want to touch on. One is most people that are drinking, I think, are doing it to numb some kind of pain.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that is the core wound that needs healing. And so that's really what it is. And I meet people that tell me like they barely drink because they don't feel good after. The older you get, you just don't feel good. The body rejects it. But also, there was one other thing when you mentioned, oh, can you just briefly share your story about how you got to do what you're doing?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm happy to. I'm sure my listeners have heard it a few times, but I'm happy to, absolutely.
I
But
just haven't
before,
heard it.
yeah, before we go there, let me just, I love what you said about the numbing. So what I say is when you drink, you're basically trying to either escape from a feeling or you're trying to create a feeling. And that's what that's what needs to be looked at. So the underlying, as you touched on. And I do think that it's a way of distracting. It's a way of not dealing with things you have to deal with. And
Exactly.
it's
Oh, I had a bad day. Go have some drinks.
exactly. And
Oh, I'm celebrating. Let's go have some drinks. Oh, I'll tell a quick story. This real estate office. So I have my Florida license, but I just made the decision. I am stepping away and focusing 100% on what I desire, which is my purpose work, which is teaching and coaching, podcasting. So I'm super excited for that and scary and excited. But anyway, I was just going to say that there was some training in the real estate office and they were all going for happy hour after. And the one receptionist who I get along with young people, probably because I'm in this 56-year-old body, but I'm probably 20 something, who knows? And she's like, you should go. And of course, I'm thinking, well, maybe she's right. I should go. It's social, whatever. And then I'm like, I don't want to go. I don't want to. And I didn't. And so I didn't go. And I was thinking about it later, but there's so many, oh, we're going for happy hour, and I went, a different. So it's a habit. It's a habit a lot of times. It's acceptable to society. But anyway, even though the vegan girl that I met, she was like, oh, she said, I socially drink. I'm like, what other way? I mean, what other kind of drinking is there? If she calls it, well, I socially drink. I guess she means I don't drink every day. I'm socially drink. But anyway.
She probably means I don't drink every day. I don't drink at home. I only drink when I go out, and no judgment, but she probably thinks if it's vegan friendly and organic, then it's good for you. So, all of that.
Well, even Jewish, the rabbi on Friday night, it's a mitzvah to drink wine. Did you know that? Yeah. But yeah.
And that it's lots of people say, well, Jesus drank wine, so why not? So I'll tell you my story a little bit because I think it's important also to highlight that regardless of how much you're drinking, if you think that it's not helping you or if you think life can be better in some way, physically, spiritually, emotionally, mentally, then just stop. So I don't advocate that you have to be drinking a huge amount. You have to be drinking a little amount. It's just how are you feeling? How's your body feeling? How are you feeling? And the other thing that I wanted to highlight as well was it's absolutely true that probably post 40, especially for women, drinking alcohol does not mix from a hormonal perspective, perimenopause, menopause. I've been on panels talking about alcohol and perimenopause, menopause and the effects. And I think that's really important to highlight as well. But
a guest on my show who's plant-based and super healthy and she's amazing and has this network of women and she doesn't drink. And I was like, whoa, I found someone who doesn't drink. She goes, yeah. And when you're somewhere, they ask you 3 questions. Are you sick? Are you pregnant? Or are you an alcoholic? Literally something like that. And I was like, God, she's right. I didn't realize that. It's true. But
Yeah.
okay, I'm
And it's
sorry.
what stops a lot of people from taking that step because they don't want to be labeled as something, or they don't want to they think society doesn't allow you to do it really, unless you have hit rock bottom,
My
unless you're on a park bench, unless you have needed rehab. And I'm completely against that. I think it's a choice for you
It's a
to
choice. I
to
love
take
that.
that break, and anyone can do it, and as I said, regardless of how much you're drinking. So I don't work with people that need medical intervention, who've hit rock
Right.
bottom. I don't work with people that have been in rehab. I work with people who choose to that they're ready
Oh,
to
I
take a
love that.
break from alcohol, and that's based on my
Okay.
story. So there was no rock bottom for me. I would consider myself a normal drinker, but since university, it was just something that I did because everyone around me did it. And it's what you said earlier about the people you surround yourself with, the environments. That was just normal. I finished university, ended up in the corporate world in the city in London. And again, it was very much a work hard, play hard environment. I climbed the ladder, as it were, did a lot of business travel. I've worked in pretty much all continents, loads of countries. And so then you're jumping on planes and you're thrusted champagne as soon as you land in the seat. And that's just the culture. And so I had a bit of an epiphany a couple of years before I stopped drinking, where I was drinking what I used to enjoy, which was heavy red wines, and realized every time I had a glass, I just felt awful the next day. And I was like, this isn't on. So, but instead of thinking I'm going to stop drinking, I thought, well, I tell you what, I'll go on to the lighter red wines. And then that didn't agree with me. So my body was telling me the whole time, but I wasn't listening to it. And then I went on to the white wines, but in no way did I think it was possible for me to stop drinking because of all the things we've talked about:
Mhm.
society, people's questioning. You only stop drinking if you hit rock bottom. What's wrong with me? Because everyone else around me seems to be drinking and
That,
feeling fine,
right.
not realizing that so many people wake up at 3 in the morning berating themselves. Why have I drank
Right.
again? You try to
Feeling.
moderate, it doesn't work, and you're then battling with this whole moderation thing. And so it got to 2020 and I've decided to take a 21-day break, and it's now been nearly 4 years. It'll be 4 years on the 9th of
I love
November.
that.
Mm.
I love that. That's amazing, Dupe. That's beautiful. And you know what? God put you on this path
I
because now
think
you're
so.
all these people.
Thank you. Yeah, I know everything's changed for me as well since then. But my mission now is really to help as many people as possible to see that actually just by taking out this one thing, they
Yes.
gain everything, and it creates a superpower and makes you brave. So that's my story in a nutshell, Linda. But I'm looking forward to being on your podcast and telling you a bit
Yes,
more,
you
a
will.
longer version of it. Okay, so where can people find you? And let me
Thank
know,
you.
and then we'll get, yeah.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much. I love talking to you. It's beautiful. LindaBrandCoach.com is the website. And then you can find me on Instagram at LindaBrandCoach and all the places, TikTok, YouTube. I'm trying to be all the places. It's so hard. Yeah, and I just became certified with the Brave Thinking Institute, and I offer a 12-week coaching program one-on-one, and I'm taking names for a group coaching program. And I also am a women empowerment coach, and I teach a lot of the self-love and worthiness and all that because we teach what we need. And I'm vulnerable and honest and truthful. I
Yeah.
teach what I need. And so yeah. And you can find Empowered the Podcast on all platforms, Empowered the Podcast. And there's a lot of other Empowered. So type in Linda Brand, and there's so many episodes. And Dupe, you will be on one of these days. We're going to make our schedules work and you will be on because I love what you're doing so
Thank
much.
you. Bless you.
Oh,
Thank you so much. Thank you.
yeah,
Well,
yeah.
I'm sure people will reach out to you, and you're doing amazing work as well. And I love your title of your podcast as well, Empowered. It's exactly what people need. So well done, you. So before we end, the last question I always ask my guests is, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
It means empowerment. It means standing in your power and not allowing anybody or anything change how you take care of yourself, how you live, and you get to be as healthy as you want, because we do have the power. And yeah, thriving alcohol free it's just taking care of yourself. It's
Mm,
loving yourself, your body. You
mm.
only get one body. So I think it's powerful and beautiful, and yeah, it's empowerment, sure.
Oh, I love that answer. Thank you so much. And thank
Welcome.
you for being such a fabulous guest. And I will speak to you soon. Okay, take care. Well, thank you, Linda. It was so lovely to speak, and thank you for sharing your story and for your wisdom. And I love what she said about true happiness is loving yourself fully. And that's so important. And again, self-love just doesn't really exist when you're drinking because you forget how to love yourself and you forget that you are the most precious thing and you can do anything you want to do and enjoy it. So I hope you found that episode helpful, and I would love it if you are thinking of taking a break, then head over and grab the online course as a starter. And who knows, you might do that course, you might end up being alcohol free for a while, and then you might think, I want to join the retreat in Bali, our Finding Freedom retreat for the thriving woman. So if that's of interest to you, there are still spaces available. We'd love to have you there. And I can't wait to meet the people that are going to be in Bali with me and Zoe in June next year. If you are interested, head over to the website and get the details. And I'm happy to have a conversation with you to see if it's the right fit for you. Okay, well, I hope you have the most wonderful week and be kind to yourself. We can be so harsh on ourselves and we can really end up berating ourselves and thinking, oh, we've done this wrong, or we've done that wrong, or we're not good enough, or we're not enough, or we're not this. Try and change your language this week. Really think about your thoughts. Think about what you're saying and think about how you're saying those things. And if it's negative, reframe it, change it, catch yourself, fill it with something positive, and be kind. And just by changing your thoughts, your life changes because whatever we think becomes. And so let's try and be kind to ourselves this week and love ourselves. Okay. Well, it's so wonderful that you're here, and I hope you have the best week, and I will see you on the next one. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe so you get alerted every time I drop a new episode. I'd love it if you could rate, review, and share this episode. Feel free to tag me on Instagram at Thrive Alcohol Free and follow me for daily tips. If you would like to work with me, I offer one-to-one coaching sessions and have my signature Thrive Alcohol Free Society group coaching program. If you're not yet ready for coaching, I also have a self-paced online course, which is a companion to my book, A Cocktail of Clarity. All the links are in the show notes. I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week. Take care.